Here is a full playthrough of my game before I explain all the code. Unfortunately, I've had to almost double the video speed just to fit the 10-minute video mark. So I'm just going to breeze through the first portion of my game, which mostly got scrapped. So I was originally set in a subway. I created a map for it, started blocking it out. Looked a bit bad from the outside, but inside it looked like this with lights on. This was more just like to get a feel for how it'd all look towards the end. And then what I'm doing here is I'm programming all of the lights for my game, so that way they would. This is, I think the lights would heal you here. Yeah. So I've got my damage over time scripts here. So I've done this so I don't have to cast to the player. This starts the damage over time event. This actually performs the damage over time events, and then this is what it looked like in game. Just turn it into a small GIF so I could send it on here, where it'd be the player would go into here and then die because they were in the darkness. Another like sample for what it were going to look like. This is the lights on thing, so I could make it so it'd check if the lights were on, because originally it were going to be dynamic, but I still used that in the end to make it so the lights could be switched on and off through the fuses that I use. I added, when I changed it, I changed it to a forest just so that I could on the fly change all of my scenes. I added in the procedural content generation framework and started using PCG as a large portion of my game. So I set up a PCG graph and a PCG volume in my scene to start randomly placing objects around the level. I replaced all these with a large array of trees, which look like this. I added some grass materials just to get a better feel for it. I made them a bit more sparse. Started messing around adding lighting, adding in the first version of the actual lights, just so that I could get a feel for how it'd also look again. These are quite dark, but it was just to get an overall look. I think it's only very recently I actually ended up changing it. And then I added in all of my scripts to pick up objects. I'll come back and explain these if I have time towards the end of the video. And then that allowed you to pick up items. These are some of my bad blueprint practices that I've done. However, due to time constraints, I didn't try reworking them, where I was running branches off of branches just to get some of my scripts to work, which no, you shouldn't do. This is that with just a comment over it. Then I started adding in some more stuff for my PCGs, so I added in some more nerds to it, just so that it's able to now not be affected by splines. I also added in just a couple more things just to make it so that way it would select multiple. Just so that way I can have multiple splines coming off of it, and both would also be affected by it. I then added in a couple more things so that I'd be able to have it allow me to create an outlet of bounds for the level. I then started reworking the fuse system, adding that in properly. I ended up just doing it due to time constraints again. I ended up making it so it just drops into a box that constantly detects if there's a fuse, if the fuse is in there. So you'll put it here, teleports it down into this box here, and just created something to catch it. And it works in the level quite well without really any issues, so it worked for what I needed it to do. There is one slight issue with the actual healing, where you've got to constantly back in and out of the light inside of this cube here, but there wasn't really an easy fix for that wouldn't be too time consuming for me to actually fix. That's just casting 2, just to speed up making the health bar. I made it bigger in the middle of the screen, and I even added things like a crosshair just so you can see when you're picking things up. It looks like this in-game. This is also the crosshair with picking up objects. Started adding in a fence on splines, and made it so that way I don't have to manually place each fence down. The splines will automatically just start placing fences along the line, allowing me to very, very quickly just add all of the fences to the level. Yeah, there's a lot of different like splines and things that I use in the level, so it can look a little bit confusing at first. I adjusted the fence heights just so that way they'd actually fit and not float above the ground. I started creating fireflies, so I created a glowing material for them, and then created a particle effect for them. And they look like this in-game. They do glow, and they're able to guide the player in certain directions. And with the new filter that I added later on, it does make them slightly more prominent and noticeable. So I noticed that the game was crashing quite a bit, so I swapped out all the assets for some lower poly ones, and then added in a pixelation filter on top, which I don't think my code's here, but I'll flash it up in editing. And then I also added in a bridge to my level just to gap the two sections together, along with some water as well that I added in. I also added collisions, custom collisions to these using invisible boxes, just to make it so the player would actually be able to walk on it. Made a base material for the fuses just so that they look the same and players are able to actually tell. And each fuse only works with certain fuse boxes. Actually put in a model for the lamppost. Simple code that just makes the lights switch on and off here. And then I also carved out some portions of the map just to make it so it fits in, so it saves on performance. Added a hill with a waterfall to my level. Allows me to also add in some more sounds to my game. I added in a small shack just to make it, and I made sure that you can beat the game hiding a fuse behind it as well. And added more fireflies just to guide the player to that area. I started to create a main menu scene, which is just a very small portion of this one tile. and it looks on towards the waterfall. Created a blank character in game mode that when you spawn them in doesn't let you move. What's this? These are the scripts for the buttons here. Added in some audio for my waterfall and also my main menu music, which is attached to the player. Added in a win state to the game. Scripted for the car. So this is when you get to the car and you win. This is the script that runs. So it's when you overlap the box for the car, it just constructs the win screen. I've got my diagram here for it all working. I've also got an animation here with a shark in the main menu scene swimming along the water, just so I've got an animation in there as well. And here's the programming that I used for the animation along the spline. I also had some issues building